Hello Internet, Merry Christmas to those who actually are into that kind of stuff. Um, something different this time. This is a GTX 1070 from MSI, as you can see. As I told in my last video, I thought it was time to slowly do something different than Polaris. So we're gonna dive into Pascal cards, so 1060s as we had the last time, 1070s and 1080s, so whatever I can get my hands into. As you can see, this example is rather dusty and dirty. It features a metal backplate for heat dissipation, but there's no actual heat pads, thermal pads on the back touching the PCB and helping. So unfortunately this is helpful just with rigidity, I guess. Further, I've noticed that the equivalent models from MSI and from AMD and NVIDIA from MSI are completely different in the structural things of building. I've noticed that equivalent models from 1060 and RX 580, 590 have nothing to do with one another. They are much more. The NVIDIA models are much better built. They have rigidity, much better rigidity. They do feature metal back plates protecting the PCB. They have internal structural brackets who help with cooling and structural integrity, and you can see that the equivalent AMD models do not. You can see I've done a video a few weeks ago with the MSI RX 570 4GB, and in comparison to this you can see big differences. But besides that, we're gonna dive into this one right away. So we'll flip the card. There's the standard LEDs from MSI here and here. Because it's 1070, we have a 6-pin and a 8-pin to power on the card. Some 1070 models only have a single 8-pin, depends on the board partner. So to release the cooler from the PCB, just unscrew these 4 screws, simple as that, and that should release the PCB from the cooler. So underneath, as I said, and as you will see shortly, there's a pretty oops, yeah, this came loose, so don't pull from the card just yet. You can see the single pin here who controls the LED. So, and then on the back here you can see the other LED 2-pin and the fan 8-pin as well. And that's it. No active, so a single touch plate just for the cooling of the GPU. We can set that aside for now, and this is the PCB in all its glory. As you can see, 2 separate they're not retention brackets, they're rigidity tension. There's no tension really, it's just hold on by screws. So this bracket helps with structural and cooling at the same time, and this bracket here is just for cooling the VRMs of the GPU. If you look back to my RX 570 from MSI, these are not present. Granted, the RX 570 with the 1070 have absolutely nothing to do. This is a performance. This was a performance card, and RX 570 was not. So, granted, as you can see, all the memory chips are held down and cooled by this plate, dissipating the heat, and equivalent when the fan blows down to the VRM section. The VRM section has been cooled as well. I've already worked on this card, so we need to flip this card because you saw some flux on the card as well. So we flip the card over to dispose the PCB, and there's just all these screws that needs to be removed. Simple as that. With such a nice backplate, I did thought that MSI would have opted for to put thermal pads to dissipate some heat from the card, but that was not the case. This is just for looks. So if you unscrew these bits, the VRM portion of the cooler will drop here. Some really nice thermal pads cooling all the important components. So we'll leave that by side as well, and the rest of the screws will hold the rest of the bracket, the other part of the bracket. With the exception, there are two little screws on the side that we need to remove as well. So we flip the card over to the side, and you need to remove these two little screws as well. And that's it. So you can lay the card forward, lift it, and there you have what a nice integrated solution to cool all the important components. So we'll set that by side, and we'll start our measuring. VRM portion is here. The top two modules, inductors, are for the memory. Biochips is here. 12 volts, 12 volts, 12 volts from the PCI. This is 12 volts from the 8-pin and 6-pin. And yeah, let's do some measuring. First of all, with beep mode, that make sure that we don't have any short circuits. No short circuit here. 1, 2, 3, 4. No short circuits there. The next one is ground. This is normal. So 12 volts, nothing, no beep. 5 volts, no beep. 12 volts from PCI, no beep. No beep. 12 volts from the 6-pin, and 12 volts from the 8-pin. So as you can see from the flux, and as I said, I've already worked on this card before, and we have a short on 12 volts from the 8-pin, and I will reveal why this has happened. And I don't know if somebody noticed, but I was holding the back plate, and you can see here a strange mark, a burn mark. And as I said earlier, no thermal pad, so you can set this by side as well, and we can flip the card over, and yes, that's the issue with the card. So there was a mini explosion here, and that's the reason that we have a short on 12 volts from the 8-pin. So the shunt resistors here, the fuses, were not fast enough. They allowed a bit of more current to pass through the card. There was a whole crater, a smaller crater. I vomited up to clear up the burnt things and maybe try to isolate the short circuit and all the burnt components, but unfortunately my technical expertise does not allow this yet. So we have a permanent short on 12 volts. Unfortunately, I'm not able to fix this card, at least, not at least with the knowledge I possess at the moment, so I'll use this as a donor card, I'm afraid. I'll remove the BIOS to fix another card. But we can still measure the rest of the card, and as you can see, despite the hole on the PCB, everything else checks out just fine. So 5 volts is here, maybe not this specific one. I don't know if we can see, sorry about this. Right, this should be, this is 12, this should be the leg, 320. I think this should be 5,000. In any case, I think this is the 5 volt controller. This should be 12 volts cycling, and yeah, we can test the first data line. That's fine. So that's fine. We can also measure in diode mode. Seems okay. Oops. And seems okay as well. PEX is next, which is located here. Should be, that sounds fine. This is 12 volts from PCI. It should be cycling, and it's cycling. You can see the shunt resistor here, and that lets me know that this is from there. This is 3.3 as well, same as from this leg here, so you can see the traces going up. Yeah, this should be 1.8. That seems absolutely fine. 12 volt from 6 pin, cycling or not. And this is the 12, the short that we have, and you can see there's a short as well. We can measure the core briefly. Yeah, seems about right. I put this white mark to see where, if the burnt section reaches the other side, where is it? I couldn't remove this MOSFET with as much heat as I could. There's, I think maybe it's fused to the board, no idea. I used a lot of flux. I used all the heat I could, and it doesn't want to lift the board. So yeah, nothing I can do about this. And memory. We can test it at the back. Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, we can test it from the back. And the inductors. And it's a bit low, but it's still acceptable. Yeah, and we flip the card around, measure the data lines. So 3.3 is here. Oh, come on. I think this is rather high, but we'll take it. PEX reset. Oh, I need to flip this around. PEX reset is fine, 1.6 mega ohms, and diode mode should be 500, 0.5 volt, give or take. I don't know why this is playing up today. There it is, 0.432, and the first two pins were not the data lines. That was my bad. The first two is the reference clock. I do apologize, but I'm learning as well at the same time. So reference clock, that will give the I will tell the core the clocks and everything. That sounds about right. And the next to it is the same as well. We can measure with resistances. Yeah, that seems about right. And that seems about right. And now the first data line after. So we don't measure here. We measure here after the capacitors. I don't know why this is not working very much. Maybe here. Much better. All right. 42 and 42 kilo ohms as well, and in diode mode. Yeah, sounds about right, and sounds about right. So that concludes all the measurements, and as you can see, despite the hole on the PCB, besides the 12 short on 12 volts, all the other measurements on the card are just fine. Whatever spike, surge, just put the hole there, probably fried these two MOSFETs, driver MOSFETs here, and yeah, and the rest of the card is still working just fine. Right, that's it. I'm gonna use this as a donor board. Yeah, that's it for this one. I'm gonna do more Pascal cards. I have a few of them waiting up, and that's it for now. Thank you very much. See you in the next one.